tell us about this one.
Yeah. So with James Conner, he's not going to be an RB1 this season. I don't think he's going to be close to an RB1 this season. He wasn't very efficient actually. Last year he was entirely touchdown dependent throughout the regular season. He only had 752 rushing yards, not a lot by any stretch of the imagination for an RB1. He only averaged 3.7 yards per carry, only 37 receptions, 10 games with 2 targets or less. I mean, we're talking PPR here. So, as a running back, you got to catch passes if you're going to do good in PPR. I have him as a low-end RB2 this season. He had 3 games with 20-plus carries last year. There was 5-game stretch down the end of last year where he had 75% of the carries or more snap share. Other than that, it was hovering right around like 47%. So they didn't even use him a lot. It was entirely touchdown dependent. I think he's going to regress. The Cardinals' offense isn't going to be better, especially without Hopkins in the early part of the year. So I think that Conner, low-end RB2 this year, doesn't score a lot of touchdowns in a Cardinals offense that I think is going to take a step back. Their offensive line's not really good. He just wasn't very efficient. He didn't pass the eye test, aside from a couple of big play touchdowns and them using him at the goal line here and there. He didn't show a whole lot. He didn't do a lot. 18 touchdowns total. There was 15 rushing and 3 receiving. And other than that, I mean, if he just loses a couple of those, he falls right out of the top 10.
Yeah, I agree with you. Really don't have much to add to what you said. I was looking at the numbers. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, one of my bold predictions, I think the Cardinals are going to start the season 1-7, and I think this plays right into it. I think, again, I think their offense is going to struggle. I think James Conner is definitely going to be a part of that. And you're right, he was very touchdown dependent last year when it comes to fantasy football. And those things, we all know they kind of go in cycles. It's kind of like what we always talk about when we did sales. Sometimes you owe the numbers and sometimes the numbers owe you.
That's
and
right.
I think this year James Conner is going to owe the numbers, and he may get the same amount of yards and things, but I think that some of those touchdowns are going to go to other players if they even get the same amount of touchdowns they got last year. Again, I think they're going to struggle quite a bit. So I can definitely get on board with this one for sure. I know a lot of folks are going to think this is a bold prediction because James Conner is the Cardinals RB1. But I think when it comes to fantasy, you're absolutely right. He's probably a middle to low end RB2 at best this year.
Out of the running backs, I think there was 2 of them that I can think of 2 off the top of my head. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't do my research on this one, but 2 off the top of my head that scored more touchdowns than James Conner. Not only did they score much touchdowns, they were just far more efficient. I know for a fact that both Eckler and JT, they averaged more than 4 yards per carry. I know they both had more receiving yards and more catches than James Conner. So they're efficient. They have the touchdowns and the efficiency. So, if they lose a couple touchdowns, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 coming out of going into the season, I should say, then they're not going to fall out of the top 10. Conner, if he loses a few of those touchdowns that he scored because of his inefficiency, he's easily going to fall right out of the top 10. And I just don't see him scoring 18 touchdowns again this year. I'd be shocked if he scores 15.